Hey guys, what's up? It's Zero9 and welcome to my workflow workshop. Today we are talking about a technique which really helps you to speed up your workflow when you're looking for specific samples. Because as a producer, you maybe already know it. You start a track and then you're looking for a specific kick drum or a specific hi-hat. And you're browsing through all your folders, but you can't find a sample which is really right for your track. And it takes about a lot of time. It's really annoying because often you don't really find something useful for your track. And there is a way to do this better, and it's called 128. And it's actually pretty simple. So what we're going to do is we'll use a sampler device and load up different samples there, and then make a macro to select them. And then it's really easy to select all your favorite samples. And you might ask why it is called 128. Well, a sampler device can hold up to 128 different samples in it. So that's where the name comes from. And that's what we're going to do. I've already prepared a device here, which is a 128 from my library. In this case, I've loaded up some hi-hats in there, and I will just quickly show you how easy it is to select the right sample while you're making your track idea. So it's really fast and you don't have to browse through samples. You can just put in your pre-made racks, and then it's really easy. So I've loaded up the open head rack here, and we will just play it offbeat pattern here. And we have the macro, which is called sample selector, and this is where we can select the samples. Okay, you can map it to your for example, if you have a controller, map it to a controller. You can use a mouse, you can use a keyboard, whatever you want. And I will just quickly show to you what it does. Yeah, you can see, so the sample selector basically just selects the next sample in my sampler. And yeah, I think also, yeah, I've mapped different parameters as well. For example, on drums, really handy to have decay, attack, and pitch, because on some samples it's cool to pitch them down or up, for example, like rides or hi-hats. But you can map whatever you want. I will just show it how it is done. Yeah, so I think the easiest way is to start from scratch. So I will make a new track here. Let's create a new MIDI track, copy the MIDI pattern, remove the default plugins, and then all we need is a sampler. And here the sampler, you can see that you have this zone. And if you click on it, pop-up opens, and here we can load up all our samples. So I will go to my library, favorite samples, and just select all open heads here from my favorite sample folders. And also just a quick tip, I recommend you to load up only your favorite samples and not just some trash, because we all know it, in a lot of sample packs there are a lot of samples which are actually not really usable or not for the type of music. So really just use the ones you really like, because then you're just browsing through all your really favorite samples and you're not wasting any time. So I will just put them here. And what is really important to mention is that for this technique you need at least 128 different samples, or you need 128 samples in total. So in this case, you see, I probably have less than that. But that's no problem. What I will do is I will just select all, and then I will just press Command D for duplicate, and I will duplicate them twice. So then I'm pretty sure I have more than 128 samples now. And then what I will do is select all again, press right click, and then you can see here a new menu popping up, and here we have this option, distribute ranges equally. So let's see what this will do. It will assign every sample to a different key in the keyboard here. And this is really useful because that's how we are going to select the sample afterwards. So, but you can see here I have a lot of samples which are assigned to the last key, because that's the reason is because I have more than 128 samples now, because I've duplicated them 2 times. So I will just delete them because we will not use them. All right, and then you can see now I have exactly 128 samples. All right, so this is the first step. And then the next step is we need some devices to trigger the different samples. So what we are going to use is the pitch MIDI FX in Ableton Live. So we'll duplicate it, and we have two instances, and the first one is set to -128, so it will always pitch down the incoming note to the lowest note, and then from there we can use the second device to select the samples. And what we'll need to do is group them, and then map the second pitch to macro 1, and we will call it sample selector so that we know what it's doing. And yeah, that's basically the first step. And let's see if it works. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention is that in the mapping, you have to set the minimum value for the second device to 0. So we'll start from 0, and then we will can go up to 128. So let's check it. Okay, let's turn up the volume because otherwise, and disable the filter because otherwise we will not hear anything. Okay. Yeah, you can see it's working. We can use this macro now to select the different samples in our rack. So this is the first step and the most important one. Now we can do a lot of other things. For example, we can map different parameters to the macros. For example, in my case, I've mapped the decay and attack. Really useful on drums. Put the sustain down. And then we, for example, we can just use it to really make the sound shorter, make it longer, make it a little bit softer. Pitch is always, for drums, really useful, so we can route it here as well. You can basically route anything. You can also, for example, you can use the filter here. You can enable the filter and set a filter envelope or the cutoff frequency to a macro. In my case, in my rack, for example, I've enabled the LFO and map different LFO parameters, so I can have some LFO movement on like volume, pitch, panning, for example, to make it a little bit more organic. Also really cool on drums. But you can basically do whatever you want here, and what's really useful for your sound you are using in this rack. For example, maybe on a synth 128 rack, other parameters might be more useful than the ones I've showed you now. But that's really up to you. I think you get the idea and the concept behind it, and it makes sample selection really easy and really fast. And that's important because if you starting track ideas, you really want to get the idea down as quickly as possible, because then you're like in the creative flow and it really helps. So I hope you find this technique useful. See you in the next video. Ciao, bye bye.